Hello there. Hope you are doing well. Welcome to another reading comprehension based questions. Here, the direction for the question is on the basis of the given text, uh, we find out some questions are given. So, what we supposed to do? We supposed to identify the answer on the basis of the question and also on the basis of the text given above. But previous to that, let's read the text. What do we find out here? The text gives the idea here. July 2023 was the hottest month ever measured in human history. Scientists have warned of the dangers of climate change for decades, and yet the political systems in Western societies respond inadequately or means not properly. Public discussion has only really picked up a speed when various groups of protesters, such as Fridays for Future or Extinction Rebellion, started organizing rallies and blocking bridges. Steps taken to reform our energy provision, our transport system, and our agricultural practices seem painfully slow. Why is it that even the best available evidence gathered by thousands of scientists using a broad range of methods is not taken up by politics? One answer is to blame citizens. Maybe they are insufficiently informed or care more about their private lives than learning about political issues. If one understands the situation in this way, it may become tempting to look for non-democratic solution. Maybe we need technocratic experts to take over, but this account is too simple and it puts the blame in the wrong place. The relationship between expert communities and society at large does not take place in a vacuum, but in a field marked by vested interest. For if policies change, this creates winners and losers, and potential losers have an interest in the status quo remaining in place. One strategy they can choose is to accept the facts and openly fight for their interest. But often these potential losers choose another strategy, undermine the public dissemination of the facts that would suggest that change is needed. The most famous instance of such a strategy has been the tobacco strategy that cigarette producers used when a scientific consensus built up showing the harmfulness of smoking. For decades, you can say they threw doubt on the soundness of these studies, funded alternative lines of research, and did everything to make the science look uncertain. Similar strategies have also been used by other industries, including the oil and gas industries. With their deep pockets, these industries could support climate change denialism and therefore delay political action. Instead of blaming ordinary citizens for not knowing enough about climate change, it is these activities that need to be called out and stopped. Does this mean that the distortion by private interest is the only problem in the relation between expert knowledge and citizens? Even without it, there remain challenges. Expert knowledge is, by definition, unequally distributed, whereas democracy as a form of governance and way of life is built on a foundation of moral equality. And yet, also among moral equals, we need to recognize that a climate scientist who spent decades studying shift in ocean temperature or an indigenous farmer who intimately knows the changes in the biosphere caused by shifting rainfall patterns know, know more about these things than many other individuals. The communities of experts and the broader democratic public have a joint responsibility to deal with this tension in the best possible way. Together, they need to create conditions in which citizens can trust the expertise of others and therefore benefit from the division of cognitive labor. Expert communities need to have a space to explore facts according to the logic of the knowledge area in which they work. Without, for example, impossible pressures to raise funding from no matter what source, they need to make sure that they allow for internal diversity in doing so because this is the best bet to stop blind spots and distorted perspective. If they discover facts that are relevant to society, they need to make those public. But democratic society also need to provide infrastructure such as science journalism that facilitate this task. Now, what we understand from this particular text is called as the passage talks about how July. right? How July 2023 was the hottest month, right? How July 23 was the 2023 was the nothing but hottest month ever recorded, highlighting the urgent issue of climate change, right? Climate change. Uh, Despite scientists are warning about this for years, political systems have been slow to respond. Instead, public action has increased with groups like Fridays for Future, Fridays for Future, right? So, and also it is in and Extinction Rebellion organization organizing protest. The passage questions why political systems have not acted on the existence presented by scientists, which we find out here. Uh, that's what question. Um, Even this one also, why is it that even the best available evidence gathered by thousands of scientists using a broad range of methods is not taken up by politics, right or not? So one reason is the influence of interest. One is called as a region is called as a vested interest, right? Uh, and you also find out that um, industries that profit from the right? Status quo status quo, right? These industries often weaken scientific evidence to delay political action, similar to what the tobacco industry did regarding the harmful effects of smoking. The passage suggests that blaming citizens for not knowing enough about climate change is uh, unfair, right? Unfair. So next is called as a uh, instead it points to the need to stop these activities by vested interest. The passage also discusses the unequal distribution of expert knowledge and the challenge of integrating this knowledge into democratic decision making. It suggests that expert communities and democratic societies uh, do what expert communities and democratic you would find out that hmm, so yeah, you can say that democratic societies need to work together to address these challenges and making sure transparency, diversity, and access to reliable information, isn't it? Now, let's come to the theme of the text. So, if you talk about the theme of the text, so what we can find out here, uh, yeah. Mhm. So, if you talk about that, the theme of the text would be what? The theme The theme of the text would be the passage discusses the challenges in addressing climate change, um, and the role of what? The role of, you can say, uh, expert knowledge in shaping political action, isn't it? Political action. So that is what we find out the theme. uh, as we understood, the main idea of the text is called as a despite overwhelming scientific evidence of climate change, political responses have been, you can say that, insufficient or inadequate, right? The passage explores reasons for this, including the influence of uh, vested interest, right? So, and also you can say that such as industries with a stake in maintaining the status quo and the unequal distribution of expert knowledge. Right. It argues for a collaborative approach between expert communities and you can say that democratic communities. Right. So to address these challenges effectively. If I talk about the tone of the text, so what is the tone of the text? You can find out the tone is nothing but critical as per the text, and you also talk about that it is urgent, critical and urgent, isn't it? Highlighting the failures of political system and the need for concerted action to address climate change. It also emphasizes the importance of what? Understanding what? The complexity of the relationship between expert knowledge and democratic decision making. So if I talk about style of writing, so the style of the passage is analytical and persuasive. Analytical and persuasive means making the reader convince and presenting arguments and evidence to support the author's viewpoints, right? The author draws on example such as tobacco industry tactics to undermine scientific evidence on smoking to illustrate the challenges posed by vested interests. The passage also offers recommendation for improving the relationship between expert knowledge and democratic societies, including promoting transparency and diversity within expert communities and making sure access to reliable science journalism, isn't it? Now let's move to the question. What does the question point out? According to the author, uh, yeah, according to the author, companies practice the tobacco strategy for all the following reasons except, right? Companies practice the tobacco strategy for all the following reasons except. Now look at the option: to delay political action on issues such as climate change, right? So, and second one is called as to fund alternative lines of research that may contradict established scientific consensus. Three, to openly fight for their interest in maintaining the status quo. Then four, to ensure that citizens are sufficiently informed about political issues. Now if I observe this, so obviously four seems the correct answer. To ensure that citizens are sufficiently informed about political issues will be known as the accept. Yet, let's see that the first one. The first one said that to delay political action on issues such as climate change. Now, this choice aligns with the description in the passage, right? Align. The tobacco strategy is used by companies to delay political action on issues like climate change by creating doubt about scientific consensus. Second is called as to fund alternative lines of research that may contradict established scientific consensus. This choice also aligns with the passage. The tobacco strategy involves funding alternative research that contradicts established scientific consensus, therefore creating doubt and delaying political action. Option three, to openly fight for their interest in maintaining the status quo. Similarly, this choice is also supported by the passage. Companies use the tobacco strategy to openly fight for their interest in maintaining the status quo, which includes delaying political action on issues like climate change. Now, if I observe option four, to make sure that citizens are sufficiently informed about political issues, so this choice does not align with the passage. There is no indication in the passage that companies practice the tobacco strategy to ensure the citizens are sufficiently informed about political issues. Instead, the passage suggests that what these activities, uh, these activities need to be stopped, right? Uh, to make sure transparency and accuracy in public discussion. So hence we can say that option 4 would be considered as the except one, and the answer should be option 4. I hope you understood this. Thank you.